Good morning to all. We have been dealing with major technological changes in the last few years, as you must imagine. We did very well during the pandemic, and we enrich ourselves here in terms of pedagogical idea. Now, where we thought we were going to be relaxed in terms of challenges, we had suddenly this AI eruption. So we have students who are eager to try it, teachers who are nervous about being replaced and about being cheated, especially. Actually, nobody knows. I mean, about two-thirds of all university assessments in the world are done through essays. Now, if you assess the student learning through essays, and the essay is not written by the student, but is written automatically by one of these tools, you are not really sure what he has learned or she has learned. So, Mr. Bloom is very well known among educational researchers. He made a discovery in 1994, which is still the holy grail of educational research. He found and documented that students who received education through tutoring and a few other techniques, but mainly tutoring, were much, much more likely to learn well than the others. So it's quite intuitive. If each student had a tutor, it will be almost double the chance that he will learn his content well. It's in technical terms, it's called two normal deviations from the norm, or the two sigma problem, as it is called in the jargon. He found this while he was working at the University of Illinois, and it's very well documented. It has been cited thousands of times. It has become the holy grail of all the educational systems. Basically, everybody wants to know how to implement it. The problem is too expensive. It's too expensive to give a tutor to every student. That's the kind of thing that happens at Oxford or Cambridge at the doctoral level, sometimes at lower levels as well. But it's incredibly expensive. No way a public school system, not even a college system with regular funds would do it. So when artificial intelligence came now, because artificial intelligence is not a new thing, it comes from the 50s. But now the new wave, the generative artificial intelligence products, they look like they could be intelligent tutors. So the holy grail of educational researchers is how to implement Bloom's discovery, but in a scalable, affordable way. So the question is artificial intelligence in the new way the way to do it? It could be a game changer. It'd be really a game changer. So first of all, what is GenAI or general artificial intelligence? You know this already. They use something called large language models. So what you find is that they read content, and there are a lot of privacy and intellectual property issues about this. They read a lot of content from the internet, especially from Wikipedia and Reddit and everything, and they produce new content. And that's the breakthrough. They produce content that did not exist before. So with GenAI, you can write essays, you can solve scientific problems, you can produce videos. It's quite surprising. When you see it the first time, it's quite surprising. They speak in natural language. They translate quite well. They translate quite well. People tend not to use it very well. People tend to confuse GenAI tools with search engines. It's not that way. It's much better to use Google than to use ChatGPT. If you want to find a restaurant in the corner of your hotels, much better to use Google. in terms of the reliability of the answer, not to speak of the amount of energy you are using. Now, the point is, large language models do not understand at all what they are generating. They are statistical machines. So the only thing they do, and they do it very well, is they try to guess which word, which number, which figure will come after the previous one. And they are very good at it. So it's like uh, a mirage. It's like an illusion. You think that you are listening to something that makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. It's only statistical manipulations. So then I reuses knowledge rather than creating new knowledge. So it's constraints. You will not get a new Bob Dylan song out of this because it doesn't have inspiration. You can get the next cover of Shakira because it understands Shakira. So you can give you a cover, you can change it a little bit. But if you are expecting something that is a breakthrough, a change, something new, you won't come out of this. Now, one of the problems, besides being constrained by the data it is fed upon, the problem is it has hallucinations. Hallucinations is a psychological term. I think it's a very bad term for AI because it anthropomorphizes the technology. It looks like there is a mind somewhere. There is no mind. It's a statistical error. It's just a mathematical error like any other. But it's called hallucination. It's more trendy. Uh, it's an hallucination. It's very down to earth. It doesn't weird. It gives you ask about a restaurant. If your restaurant doesn't exist, you write a dig on paper. If we give you residents that are wrong, you write a scientific paper. If we academic paper, we give you sources that do not exist. So they are a real problem. The problem is these hallucinations are presented to you in a very eloquent ways. They are very well redacted, very well written, very well spoken, very well presented even in video form. And our minds are wired anthropologically to trust good enough editing. So if something looks like well written, you tend to trust them. So we have to be very cautious and we have to check everything that is being given to us. And this has enormous consequences for productivity and for educational purposes, as I will argue now. So please note that there are ancient roots about artificial intelligence. Golems have existed in Jewish folklore for centuries. And you have to we have to note that the history of the golem is a history that parallels very much what do we fear now about AI. It's something that we create, but may and actually does in a lot of the stories, they come against us and they dominate us. So what's the myth of the golem is something that parallels a lot of the fears that transcends artificial intelligence at the moment. So what can students do with Gen AI very quickly? And this is very useful. Summarize documents. Some documents are very boring. When I give a student, we are a university, we give a student the book of the economic indicators of Uruguay the last 5 years to make a paper. This will summarize it. You can practice conversation in various languages. Before I came, I tried to polish my French a little bit. It is a bit rusty, so it was very, very useful. It's good to brainstorm ideas when you are stuck. We don't know how to start the paper. You can brainstorm ideas. It's quite good. It can go in unexpected ways. There is this famous story about New York Times journalist who tried one of these models, and after speaking 20 minutes, the advice he received was to divorce his wife. Yes, and this is a true story with a lot. It goes in unexpected ways. Well, it's very good also to analyze complex data sets. So if you have to work with Excel and all these clumsy tools, so you give these tools to one of these AI new instruments, and they will do it for you quite quickly. Now, what else? They can help students understand complex math problems. So, be this young students, you can tell them how to check on differential equations, and they will get a tutor's lesson on differential equations. You can work on that's a problem and a solution at the same time. You can tell them to produce music, to produce text. Now, who is producing them? Is the student? Is it he? Or is the machine? Or is somebody else who wrote it before? Or in the cocktail of both? Um, it can give you personal feedback. I will give you an example of this. Now, for teachers, why is this interesting for teachers? You can create lesson plans very quickly, audiovisual aids. You can generate example. You can design assessments and rubrics. Rubrics are instructions for which qualification give to every student. All the things take time, so teachers tend to like this. It's a productivity aid. The last one is very good for teachers. It can, if it is well programmed, it can give you automatic grading. So you get all these papers, all these emails. You put all this into one of these models, and it will grade every student. It will grade every student. It will even give feedback to the students. Now, some students are complaining that they are paying the tuition and the teacher is doing this automatically. So there are problems coming up. Uh, and still, does it quite well. Now, what were the university's initial reactions to general artificial intelligence? Well, the initial panic was called the apocalypse of the essay because essays are used for two-thirds of assessments in the world. So the apocalypse of the essay, we cannot use the essay anymore because we don't really know who is going to write them. So the universities, the main reaction, the initial reaction was to pay defense. There was a loss of confidence in essays, on homework assignments, on projects, and all this is about two-thirds, even more, even three-quarters of teaching. So there was all this movement against prohibition of use of AI tools. So now this is a contradiction. So our mission is to teach students how to develop in the world, and we are going to prohibit them to use the new tools. There is a contradiction in choice. Is a conceptual contradiction there. But that was the reaction. The École Normale Supérieure here in France, one of the top schools, they prohibited the use of ChatGPT, for example. There was all this money spent on detection of use of artificial intelligence. That was a waste of money. Doesn't work. Don't do it. Don't try. It's a waste of money. And then there was the second way of replacing essays by something else. That is difficult to replace the essay because the essay is done at home. It involves thinking. It involves group work. It involves checking bibliographical sources. So it's difficult to substitute it. So we went back, years back, to oral examinations. But oral examinations are exhausting for students. They are subjective. They are exhausting for teachers, but they are done. They are done. Now in many very, very, very well-known universities, they have gone back to oral examinations, invigilated tests. We do have, again, all these people walking around the seats to check that nobody's having a telecom or a computer. So we are going back to the Middle Ages. And there was all these threats, all unfounded, in my opinion, self-perceived threats of teacher replacement. That I don't think this will happen. But that was the initial reactions of universities. Myself, what do I think? Uh, for the moment, I am a skeptic about this. A skeptic doesn't mean I am against. A skeptic, I mean, we have to be critical, especially because it's not sufficiently reliable. It's too prone to hallucinations. So you will have a student bringing you a study about how Christopher Columbus discovered the Indies, for example, not America, because he's found somewhere that. And some student will write this down and put it in your essay. Incredibly, they don't check it. So I think at the moment, they say the new models of general AI have brought hallucinations to less than 2%. So that's quite good, 2%. Depends on the industry if you are. If you are providing um, medications to patients, 2% is not good enough. If you are dispatching ambulances, 2% is not enough if it's going somewhere else. If you are dispatching firefighters trucks, it's not good enough. 2% may be good enough for some situations, not good enough for other situations. Still is not reliable. Some people say that the new way of LLMs will solve this. It's happening all the time. I was telling Arturo on the bus, but yesterday there was a new article published by the University of Ottawa saying that they had gone down to about 1.5%. Maybe it will keep going down. I am personally a skeptic. I think this is statistical model has a roof. You won't be able to go up the roof. At some point, there will be a change. It will be it will be needed a sort of mathematical engine. This is a statistical engine, and a statistical engine will never hit the roof, in my opinion. So we will need a kind of new paradigm. But those are is very debated. What is not debated is that there is a productivity illusion, as I say this, because the hallucinations are so dangerous that you have to read everything again. And this is very common in the computer industry because people say you don't need programmers anymore. You have to code. You have automatic coders now. But the problem is you have to reorganize your whole company because the code you write, the code you get through these engines that is produced automatically comes with hallucinations, comes with errors. So you have to displace part of your workforce from coding to fact checking, to proof checking. So there is really a productivity illusion. It won't take less time nor less money. The effort will be going somewhere else. Maybe the skill set will change. But at the moment, I don't think there will be a productivity revolution. So there is a bigger problem. There's an even bigger problem. Gen I might lead to what is psychologists call cognitive offloading. The point is, technology over history has atrophied human skills. For example, force. After some time, there was little value in force because you had, I don't know, trucks and machines. And then at some point in time, it was very important to know how to calculate mentally. After you got calculators, being able to calculate rapidly mentally, it's not very important, really. or to search, classify and search. Those are skills that are not in value in the market anymore. Now, this is different because um, what is going to potentially amplify is your thinking, what you think. It's not only how do you calculate or how you classify or how you edit with word processors. This go straight into the heart of cognition. And we know very little about real cognition. We do know we do not know enough about cognition in our minds. What happens in our minds when we learn something? We do not know enough yet. Well, this is dangerous. And cognitive offloading means, as beside this, the psychologists refer to the habit of not doing something, of giving to a third party to do. So if you don't have to write, if you don't have to look for sources in the bibliography, if you give this to a machine, then your mind over time may lose its own steam, its own inspiration to do this. So instant feedback is useful, but in general it's quite impersonal. So a machine will tell you, well, your calculations are wrong, they are right. The way you are looking at the civil revolution in the States is right or wrong, but it won't be really tailored to what the student think or what the student knew before. So there is an impersonalization risk there. There is a very it can be humorous. There is a sycophant now in the last wave, the last 2 months, the all crowd, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, they have introduced sycophantic traits into how they speak to people. So they tend to be to give you the impression that you are a genius. So, what's the capital of France? Paris. Excellent. Nobody could have thought of this. This is the way they talk. Well, this sycophantic style is doesn't work properly work with students. They tend to think more of themselves. So, good practices that we have learned for universities: train students who use large language models efficiently. They have to be skilled into what is called prompt design, which is another form of, say, program the query. Prepare students to be aware of data biases, because if the large language model was trained, for example, only on Western literature, you will not get Chinese literature or Japanese literature or African literature or whatever. There are also algorithmic biases. There are very famous examples about facial recognition. There are problems with African Americans and things like that. And especially train students to verify. And students are not happy to verify. They want to finish quickly and go to have some pizza and new big somewhere else. They don't want to spend time verifying. So they get these 5 pages long, very well written, very eloquent, very elegant essay on the causes of the invasion of Napoleon to Spain, for example, and they want to hand it to the teacher. They don't want to go into the 5 pages and read it. If not, they would have written in the first place. Well, that's the conundrum. That's the conundrum. So you have to teach the students not only to fact check, you have to teach them, which is a little bit more difficult, the logic of how large language models infer. How do they infer? what are the sources on the information. So if you do it well, this fact checking will strengthen their critical thinking. If you don't do it well, what you are promoting is cognitive atrophying or cognitive offloading. So the challenges for teachers are design assessments that are AI resistant. So what did we do just to start finishing this meditation? That the doctrine of Universidad or why what we did after a few weeks of scrubbing our minds. First of all, we decided not to prohibit artificial intelligence. And this was quite a decision because at the time you had very large universities in many parts of the world saying the way forward is being against. So we are not against. AI use, artificial intelligence use is authorized and encouraged at home, at all university. We explain to students that producing academic work academic automatically is self-defeating. So you would think, well, students will laugh at us, but no. If we tell them, look, you want to train as an engineer, where you want to train as an economist, if you produce your essays automatically, you are self-defeating yourself. You won't be able to work afterwards. So we sort of evangelize. We try to evangelize to call on their moral vectors. We do not use AI detectors. Um, Instead of looking for evidence of speaking, we look for evidence of learning, so to speak. They don't work, basically. The technology is not there. And we, we only tell them here at the end, I don't know if you can read it properly. AI used is promoted. It's not only authorized, it is promoted by us, but it has to be attributed. The students have to report at the end, I had used Claude, I have used Gemini, I have used OpenAI or whatever they use, Calculate or whatever they use, they have to attribute it. Like if they had attributed, like if they had used another author. So this is important. So they are self-conscious of what they are using. So assessment design is the main challenge now because 2/3 of the assessments are through essays. So our teachers, we have 1,000 university professors working for us, 1,000. So we had these large and long meetings discussing alternatives. So we said we cannot stop doing essays because essays are very good ways of learning and assessing. So we cannot cut them off. But we have to change that. We have to reach for what is called higher order skills. Instead of memorization, which is a lower order skill, creation, which is a higher order skill. So the main point here is that assessments historically have been a bit about assessing artifacts, assessing a product. So the student writes something or draw something and give it to the teacher. The teacher assess the product, thinking that the product is a proxy of what the student learned. And now this is not true anymore. So the question now is we have to fine-tune the essays. If you ask generic questions, so the artificial intelligence tools will do the work for us. So you have to fine-tune the essays. You have to ask students to still do essays, but with local problems. They will have to do some personal research, interviews, whatever is needed to personalize the problem. And this is the main thing. You have to switch, and this is difficult for teachers. It's very difficult. We have been conducting seminars 6 times a year for the last year and a half, trying to help teachers move into this new paradigm to assess processes, not assess products. Because you cannot rely on products anymore because the product might have been done by a machine. So you have to assess the process. Now, for a teacher, it's much more difficult to assess the process by which a student construct a product. So know your student rather than know your student's output is the main thing. Uh, you have to design learning experience that challenge students. So you have to forget about what we call the academic problems that are mathematically elegant. We have to give students real problems of real life where numbers do not ground properly. And basically, you have to challenge them in such a way that they are obliged to use artificial intelligence. It's not a choice anymore because you will give them shorter times to do much more complicated things. So they will have to use artificial intelligence attributed, and the speed at which they will have to produce whatever you need will give you some guarantees that their minds have really worked, not only their external minds, as they call it. So you have to target higher order thinking instead of all lower order thinking. This is Blue's taxonomy of higher order thinking is creating, evaluating. Lower order thinking is remembering. So no use of essays about memorization doesn't work anymore, or just understanding a topic. You have to aim for creating new things. So the big plate at the end of the day is that general AI we go the way of previous technologies, but instead of losing our capacity to do mental calculations, we may go into thinking skills degradation. Our cognition may rust in ways unexpected. We don't know what can happen because at the end of the day, we are humans. We differentiate ourselves from other species because we can think. In the past, mental calculation lost value. We don't need to read maps anymore. Maps are read for us. Indexation, classification is not useful anymore. So if we don't have to think anymore, what may happen? Well, I know this sounds philosophical, but when you are teaching thousands of students, all these questions have to be asked. So when you give students challenges, you have to remember productivity in a university or in education is measured in a different way than in a company. In a company, productivity means doing less and producing more. In education, it's not that way. In education, the effort is part of the process. The strain, the stress on the student is part of the way he learns. And by the way people learn is not well understood yet. It's like cognition. It's still a mystery. We still don't know how people learn. We still don't know really well how people learn. So, uh, but definitely learning leads a strain. You have to push people to the maximum extent for them to learn whatever is valuable to learn. So, as I was saying, the danger is as we outsource more of our mental effort, is that our internal cognitive abilities may atrophy. So, this is a real research. Claude is the main competitor of AI. They conducted a research on 250,000 users in universities about that. This is the recent, it was published a month ago, to see what are students doing with the artificial intelligence tools. The problem is, as you can see, the main use is the higher order scale. That's a problem because they don't use it for remembering things, which wouldn't be a problem. They use it mainly for creating. So if you externalize your creative powers, where are we going? Where are new songs? Where are the new songs come from? We come from. Where are the new novels come from? Where are the new medications come from? If we externalize our creative capacities, this is very disturbing, and the club people were not very happy about this because they know educators we don't want to promote this. As you can see, creating and analyzing are the two main uses of students nowadays. So thank you very much.